Man, he's a great coach. Obviously, I got what he's been able to accomplish, and I've always been a big fan. But I told him respectfully, told him to stop bitching about calls because I saw what he said last game. I mean, if you're going triple team somebody all game, they're bound to, get to the free throw line, or if you're going to push them off and, trying to hold them off and all that stuff, they're bound to get to the free throw line. So, I feel like, every fouls were legit and probably should have been more, honestly.
That's my MVP. I don't know who your MVP is, but that's my MVP. Sixers up 2-0 in the series. I'm going to talk about some various things, and then I'm going to have a breakdown in the middle of this. I think I'll end up making this 20-ish minutes. Coming into the series, we were all pretty pessimistic. The way things broke down in the final 12 games of the season, where we had to literally wrestle with our head coach to not play one of the old men. Still a concern in the Heat series because his commitment is on, well, if someone looks the part of a 7-footer, by God, we gotta play someone who looks 7-foot, even if he also can't play worth crap. So that remains to be determined if we can pull this out. That's actually why I'm hoping in the next 2 or 3 games of a Toronto series, however this plays out, I'm hoping that Paul Reed has a nice quote-unquote breakout game for a backup, like 8 points and 5 boards, just to show Doc that there's absolutely no reason whatsoever to go back to any of the old guys. They just can't do it. It is what it is, and I'm just hoping that Doc sees that, because he played 2 games, won 2 games, blew out 2 games, in large part because Paul Reed is simply a better defender than DeAndre Jordan. Not that that's not a big, that's not a big thing to climb. It's not like I'm saying, oh my God, this is amazing. It's more like, this is simple, Like, DeAndre Jordan hadn't been effective for the last 6 years now. Literally hadn't really gotten starting minutes in 6 years. Flopped with the Nets, flopped towards the end of the Clippers, flopped with the Lakers. So honestly, and even in terms of, you can get an alley-oop for 2 a game, I think you can get the same with Paul Reed if James Harden never throws passes his way. Literally, I think he'd throw maybe 1 lob pass to Paul Reed in all the minutes they shared. Can't get the alley-oops if you don't throw the lob pass. I'm just saying. But really, Joel Embiid has just been absolutely incredible. And one of the big reasons why we had our doubts is Joel Embiid normally, and this isn't even a bad thing, against 27 of 30 NBA teams, it's not a problem that Joel Embiid has elite level shot creation, especially at a 7-foot size, able to attack you from the post, able to attack you from the mid-range, able to launch a free ball and get it in. At the turnaround three, that was priceless. I would have added that clip too, and maybe later, but that was priceless. That shot was, I was just delicious. But because he can score on all 3 levels like he can, it made it so that he would normally try to score against any level defense, especially the last 2 years. But because of that, what Toronto was able to do is, they could use a bunch of 6'6", 6'8" guys to just clog the paint with them. And so I wonder what's the difference between what was done in the regular season and what was done now. Quite a few things, But I think the big thing in terms of setting tempo, what Sixers talked with Rom 2.0, what he talked about, and I agreed with him. Should have made a video on it. I made comments on it, but no, he said comments, right? But basically, he and I agreed that the key to the series and the key to having a better success than he did in the regular season was less Joel trying to get his and more they bring the double quickly, they bring the triple quickly, kick it out, trust your teammates, and your teammates have to hit open shots. Although, interestingly, there's a little bit of a caveat. It turns out that even if you don't hit your shots, Danny Green 1 for 5 in game 1, even if you don't hit them, the reality or the idea of Danny Green was so much to spread the floor for James Harden. James Harden is, and I'm going to talk about him more exclusively in a bit in this video as well, in that James Harden is not Houston Harden anymore, and he doesn't have to be. But whether it was Houston Harden or whether it's the Harden that we have now, which quite frankly is Andre Miller with a 3-point shot, that's still a top 25 player in the NBA, mind you. So he's still a very, very good basketball player, to say the very least. But in the Harden system, two things are paramount: spacing and shooting. Like, seriously, now that we have James Harden along with Joel Embiid, these are the only two type of players that can be on the Sixers. If you can't do any of these things, aka Matisse Thybulle, you just don't have any purpose here. Let's be thankful that Matisse Thybulle is unvaccinated. You know, it was interesting. ESPN had a segment on it, and when Stephen A. Smith brought up the whole Matisse Thybulle and Toronto thing, I was thinking that it was flatly like, no. I think everyone now sees that Matisse Thybulle is the asset to get a starting wingman in the offseason next year. Just if you can trade Ben for Harden, you could definitely flip Matisse for a starting level small forward, and that's what you're gonna have to do because Matisse is useless. I feel like Danny Green as a backup is great for him in his career at this point. So you got two deep backup wings, one of which is unplayable with James Harden, the other one is better off in those 20 minutes. So you train Matisse in the offseason to get a starting wingman. Don't have to be big either, you know, in terms of an elite starting wing, because you have Maxey, Harden, Embiid, and I'm even open now to keeping Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is finally, for the first time in his career, accepted the fact that he's not Carmelo Anthony and shouldn't be trying to be Carmelo Anthony. Let's celebrate that. Let's congratulate that. Literally, thank you, Tobias Harris, for no longer trying to imitate Carmelo Anthony, because it killed the offense, killed your offense, killed the team's offense. Thank you for no longer imitating Carmelo Anthony. Sincerely from me to you, not only does it win more, but it's more aesthetic to look at. So thank you. But I'm open to keeping this version of Tobias Harris. The only thing the Sixers really need to complete their starting lineup is a small forward who can play every game, give you 12 points, 36% from beyond the arc, and just won't die on defense. I'm not looking for all-pro defense. You don't even need all-pro defense. Joel Embiid has James Harden in top 10 defense. Now, anyone who knows James Harden's career, to have a James Harden-led unit as a top 10 defense, that should show you don't need this all-world level defense. Just get someone who won't die on screens. And so even more with Harden, it's just, you don't need to go from bottom 30 small forwards, the top 15 even, just top 20. Just get a barely average dude here, and that would be a dramatic upgrade over Matisse Thybulle. So yeah, no. Matisse's reputation has been exposed, and it's a good thing, because now Daryl Morey knows what you need and what you don't need, and what you should value and what you don't value. And I think that's important for this offseason to get the dread rate. We need bench scoring. That's another thing that's keeping us on the next level. We need bench scoring. Shake Milton ain't it. Time Court Miles ain't it. You know, and that's why you need to play Maxey 40 minutes. Play Harden 40 minutes. But in order to build a true Sixer dream team that gets over the hump, you're going to need a guy to give you 20 minutes tonight at the guard spot. Someone who can get Maxey and Harden rest. That third guard is necessary. There's just so many needs that Matisse Thybule's very, very limited, almost non-existent game is so much a luxury that the Sixers can't afford. It's like the Phillies that year during the rebuild. You had Ken Giles, an elite pitcher, and it's like, we need hitting, we need starting pitching, we need outfielders. What are we doing with the top 5 elite pitcher in the game? It's the same thing here. It's just too one-dimensional. There are too many big needs. Anyway, the point is that Matisse Thybulle is going to be traded in the offseason. Sorry, Dimples, YouTube, likable guy, just doesn't fit James Harden and Joel Embiid together. And that's the most important thing now for the Sixer franchise. I always think about the long term, even though you're up 2-0. You know, you played 2 games, you won 2 games, and you did what you needed to do against a Toronto team. But in this sort of, I guess, freestyle video over everything that happened, I want to defend Joel Embiid because, you know, Raptors fans on Twitter, you know, they're just outrageous. They gave death threats to Joel Embiid, literally talking trash about his dead brother, and all this crazy shit that's just outrageous. You know, it's like Joel himself said it. If you literally are sending double and triple teams, you know, he's going to get fouled, and unfortunate things are going to happen, like accidentally stepping on the foot of Scotty Barnes. I hope that he's able to feel better, and actually, even though a sweep would be great, equal justice is that maybe the Raptors split at home, and Game 5, Scotty Barnes might be able to come back. Because I think Scotty Barnes is a nice, versatile defender. You know, he's able to get in the lane some, able to score some. So with Scotty Barnes, I like to see him back. I would hope that he's able to play more than 1 game in the series, because I think he's a very good young player. That said, now that Joel Embiid was passing out of doubles and triples, 2 things were happening. Number 1 is that you were able to get, you know, some quality outside looks for your guys. But the other thing is that because he was able to swing it out, you're able to relocate, repost, and that allowed you to have deep seals one-on-one in the block, like Shaquille O'Neal said on TNT the other day. And because you're able to reseal and reblock, the doubles and triples aren't going to get there. And that's really helped Joel Embiid's scoring as well. But I would be remiss, and part of the breakdown that I said that we're going to be doing, I stretched it out 25 minutes. Couldn't keep myself to 20 minutes, could I? But part of the breakdown that we're going to be doing is we're going to be having a breakdown of Tyrese Maxey 2 games, because Tyrese Maxey has been absolutely amazing. But at the same time, you know, it's kind of funny. Credit to J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick was maybe the only guy who gave Tyrese Maxey his props. But the conversation today and yesterday was like, oh, well, you know, you didn't acquire James Harden to beat the Toronto Raptors. Oh, you really can't go far with Tyrese Maxey. A, it's disrespectful. B, why aren't you saying this about Jordan Poole? The Warriors have the depth lineup that's absolutely revolutionary. Poole, Thompson, Curry together. You know, Andrew Wiggins is spreading the floor with those 4 3-point shooters, absolutely exploiting any immobile center. It just happened to be Jokic. But Jordan Poole is a big part of that. But I don't hear you saying the Warriors can't count on Jordan Poole against the Phoenix Suns and the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't hear you saying that. But you're saying that about Tyrese Maxey. Why? Because it's Philadelphia. That's why. It's the same reason why you gave back-to-back MVPs to a guy. And see, now, I want to make that clear now that we're on the topic. I don't dislike Nikola Jokic, the person or the player, at all. Not at all. Here's the issue with the back-to-back MVP. There are 2 issues. Number 1, and what the series is also exposing, Nikola Jokic is a center. He's not a power forward, he's not a small forward, he's not a shooting guard, he's not a point guard. He's a center. And I mentioned this on my video why Joel Embiid should be the MVP, but when you play the center position, as Joel Embiid talked about, you are the center of the defense. You're the commander of the defense. Literally, the defense lives and dies, especially in this era of the game, where bigs stretch out and shoot threes. You are the one that dictates the defensive pace and the outcome. And so here's the interesting, actually this is a very simple test. If the Sixers did ever swap and beat Jokic, which they will never do, and it's on the Philly side, not the Denver side, to make it very clear, what would happen? What would happen if Nikola Jokic had to be the top of the defense with James Harden, Danny Green, barely? Matisse Thybulle can only cut, so he can't spread the floor, and Nikola Jokic hits corner shooters like nothing else. So Matisse would be even a worse fit for Jokic than it would be for even Simmons. What would happen? Well, I'll tell you what would happen. Teams are just, what they're doing right now to Jokic, it would be done to any team as long as Jokic starts at center. I'm going to run a ball screen, I'm going to get this guy in isolation, and either I'm going to score or I'm going to force out defense, and my guy's going to shoot the ball. Nikola Jokic is a defensive liability at center. Now, if he were a power forward, you'd be okay with that. We've seen scoring power forwards who are bad at defense. Amari Stoudemire, Carlos Boozer. There's a place for a 6'10", 6'11" big man at the power forward spot who just can't play defense. But Nikola Jokic is a center. And no, defensive rebounds is not a defensive stat. Sorry. So, literally, if you swap and beat Jokic, the Sixers will probably be a bottom 20 defense. Probably center hovering around 500. And it will not be up 2-0 in this series. And that's my main issue when it comes to Nikola Jokic back-to-back MVP and what, the voters like Boris Burke have done. When you gave Jokic back-to-back MVP, the voters did not contemplate what that meant, the Bill Simons and the Ringer. You just did not contemplate what that really meant over the long-term history of basketball, as Nick Wright pointed out. When you gave Jokic back-to-back MVPs, you basically said that this guy is on the level of Giannis Antetokounmpo. You said he was on the level of Steph Curry. Now, as you saw the other day, 34 points in 22 minutes, it's just not true. You're not that level player. You're not on the level of Kobe, Kareem, Wilt, Hakeem Olajuwon. Jokic just isn't that guy. And it's largely for defensive purposes. You're just not that guy. Think about it. All the guys that I just named, Kobe Bryant was on all-defense team for like 8 years straight. Giannis Antetokounmpo is one of the game's best defenders. And even though Steph Curry doesn't really fit that model, Thinking Basketball came out with a video talking about how dominant of a heliocentric player that Steph Curry is without the basketball. Very similarly to Luka Doncic. Jokic is just not at that tier. He's not. Put Nikola Jokic on the Mavericks and take Luka Doncic off the Mavericks and ask yourself whether Nikola Jokic would fare any better. According to Nugget fans, no. So that just goes to show that, again, Nikola Jokic is not that guy. And, we can't rectify this mistake. You made a mistake, you put yourself in this position, you clown the MVP award. But what you can do, and Nick Wright himself talked about it, is starting next year, you need to really put expectation on Nikola Jokic. The Denver Nuggets in the Nikola Jokic era have never won over 50 games. Start there. If he's the best player on the planet, start there. let me clarify. I'm going to pause this video. So I'm going to clarify. My bad. They did get it once in 2017-18. And in the last couple of years, they would have gotten there if you had a full 82. So, okay, you have some 50 wins in there, I guess, technically. I'll be fair, I'll push it up there. But my main point is, if you're going to be two-time MVP, you're going to be Giannis, you're going to be Steph. At least have the same pedigree of wins that Embiid's been able to do in the regular season. You know, it's like, don't call yourself, well, he didn't call himself, but the Doris Burks of the world, the Richard Jefferson, call him this when he has the same level of success as those guys, okay? Like, enough. So for me, 2023, the Nuggets, they're going to have a healthy Jamal Murray. They're going to have a healthy Michael Porter Jr., hopefully, probably. Win 55 games, please. You know, I don't want the Denver Nuggets to be with a healthy Murray, with a healthy Porter Jr. Let's say that they have another 48-ish, 46-ish win campaign. And if that happens with a fully healthy roster, I don't want to hear warp. I really don't. I'm sorry. I don't even want to hear the 8 assist game because guess what? In terms of real, actual value, Jokic's assists do not equal the same as his ability to protect the rim. Last 2 games, the Warriors are shooting 56 to 57% when guarded by Nikola Jokic. Is it that much to ask Nikola Jokic to be an even average level defensive center? If he were even an average level defensive center, you'd probably split those games. Or at the very least, you could bring it closer to the fourth quarter. So, not my MVP, at least not this year, and definitely not two-time Giannis Steph level. Stop it. He's not that guy. And if you think he's that guy, you win over 55 next year. Anything less, he shouldn't be on your ballot. Period. Unless the award is a ceremonial joke award. Make the MVP relevant again. Because it's not relevant if you could be a 6 seed, be an awful defensive center. Oh, and on that note, first team center. So forget the MVP. Okay, you can two-time MVP, whatever. Specifically the center position. All first team center. You see it in the series. Protect the rim. By golly, if it's a low-level seed that you want, I would even say Rudy Gobert should be a first team center over Nikola Jokic because at least Rudy Gobert protects the rim and is by far the best player on the Jazz. Seriously. But there's no reason to give Jokic this stuff. And because of that, when Mike Malone was like, oh, you guys don't pay attention to Denver. That's to your favor, Mr. Malone. Because if they did, holy shit. I think Jokic is good to very great. He was not historic great on the level of the analytics say that David Robinson should win every year and Nikola Jokic should win every year. He's not that guy. He's not LeBron. Please stop it. That is all. That was my little mini rant over. As a Philadelphia fan, I'm obviously disappointed that Embiid doesn't get the reward that he should because voters just weren't able to comprehend what we're seeing. Joel Embiid is the Michael Jordan of centers. He is the greatest offensive force at the center position that we have ever seen. Seriously, he had the assists on there. Who cares? Seriously, who cares? Who do you think? The Golden State Warriors aren't sending double and triple teams. No, they have a Draymond Green. Now, you go back in the regular season against the Golden State, and you know, Draymond and Joel joked about this, but Golden State, not as much as, you know, Toronto, obviously, or even Miami, because Draymond is a very good defender. But even the Warriors were like, we have to stun doubles, send doubles a little, just because Embiid is that good, and to show different things. So even the Warriors feel like we had to double Embiid, not so much Jokic. I want voters to think about that next year. Enough. The true offensive guy is the guy that you can't cover one-on-one, be it him on the perimeter, or him in the post, or even, Lord have mercy, when he's able to be off the ball at the rim when no one contesting him. When the Sixers can run a ball screen, run this direction, roll it up in this direction. We can finally actually do that for a little bit. So now you got him playing the traditional center role that you all want, and he's honestly maybe way too skilled for it, so the result is easy too. So please, give the Michael Jordan of centers, one of the rarest things that we have ever seen and will never see again, that combination of finesse and skill. If he's the top 2C again, plays 85% of games again, 90% of games again, can you very please give it more consideration than you did this year, other than, oh my God, Giannis gets a block? Because shit happens. And it wasn't even Giannis getting the block. It was the blockhead playing Paul Millsap, thinking it was actually going to be effective, or even effective. Let's be honest. If that doesn't happen, you're going to get comfortably in Milwaukee. Different narrative, and probably wins it. So that sucks. So next year, give it a little more consideration. A little more. Because he deserves one. If the Michael Jordan of centers wins championships, but never wins an MVP, that would be tragic. And I actually thought about this, and I looked it up while musing, I looked up the best players never to win an MVP. Did you know that Elgin Baylor, a Hall of Fame big man, has never won an MVP? There are so many great players who have never won an MVP. Walt Frazier, Hall of Fame shooting guard, never won an MVP. Will B3, a Sixer, never won an MVP. There are so many great players who have never won an MVP. Dwayne Wade never won an MVP. First ballot Hall of Famer. And the reason that a lot of these guys have never won an MVP, we talk about Paul Pierce as a Hall of Famer, never won an MVP. Ray Allen never won an MVP. And the issue is because, obviously, in the mid-2000s, LeBron James had this run of the year, and it coincided with Kobe Bryant. And then there's Tim Duncan. And Nikola Jokic right now is on the verge. And think about it. Steph Curry won back-to-back MVPs. Giannis won back-to-back MVPs. And Jokic won back-to-back MVPs. And, this is kind of my issue with the media voting community. As tempting as it is, and especially this year, really brought it out because a lot of guys had great, records and resumes. Like, I haven't even touched on Phoenix Sun fans out about an argument of, if it's about winning and if it's about health, point guard Paul, who was in the MVP conversations a year ago, and elite level player Devin Booker on a 64-18 roster. So Phoenix fans have an even greater argument than we do when it comes to wins and losses. But I think even the Phoenix Sun fan will admit that the Michael Jordan of centers deserves at least one. On this simple fact, to appreciate and put greatness in its appropriate, proper context. And the failure to do that is going to be a huge asterisk. It's going to be a huge asterisk. Like, luckily, Shaquille O'Neal and Steve Nash are both in the Hall of Fame, but imagine if they weren't. So it's just important to get this right. Not so much to pick your favorite. It's important to get this right. Because this matters for more than just one season, the more than one end of season award. And if we need to include the playoffs in order to be able to get it right, then we'll need to find a way to include the playoffs. Because it's just more important to get this right. So that Charles Barkley never won an MVP, Hall of Famer. It's important to get this right. And anything else. Slide Drexler, Hall of Famer, never won an MVP. There was a guy named Michael Jordan. It is important to get this right more than anything. And, you know, the media members didn't get it right. They didn't even come close. And so next year, I'm just asking you, next year, get it right. And get it right doesn't necessarily mean Embiid, because late in the season, you know, particularly after the straw poll came out, that pissed a lot of us off, and it coincided with the Sixer. It wasn't even a losing streak. It was more, we don't want to lose one, we don't want to lose one. And most of the hats, especially the Detroit, like, it was like, oh my God. It was at the Detroit loss. It was like, oh my God, okay, give it to Giannis. No, I didn't say give it to Jokic. I said give it to Giannis. Because I felt and thought Giannis is more deserving than Nikola Jokic. So I was like, I'm not going to give it to Embiid, at least give it to Giannis. So this isn't me campaigning for some automatic, why aren't I 900 points ahead with Joel Embiid in 2023? It's give Embiid a fair shot to win the award. It's not a fair shot if you care more about Vort and more about passing than his ability to actually play the center position. It's not a fair shot. Because otherwise, let's say the Denver Nuggets are another, again, 46 win team, but he has another 2,000, 1,000, 500 assists. It's like, because again, he's always going to be a great passer. He probably always be a very good rebounder. He's 7'4", 260. You can't really move Nikola Jokic out of the paint. And he's a very good scorer. And I'll even give him this. I agree with him. Sometimes he doesn't get the calls. Like that foul by Draymond Green. Yes, it was a foul. You literally hit his shoulder and B would have gotten that call. I agree with you. But still, he's always going to be this triple threat level player. He's going to be an elite player, and he is. But please hold him to the same standard. Hold him to the same standard as every other two-time winner or every other franchise superstar. Hold him to the same standard. That's all I'm asking. If you're going to say he's Giannis and Steph, or even Luka in 2023, please hold him to the same standard. And if he's held to that same standard and he meets it, great for him. I'll vote for him for MVP myself. But he's not that guy. Not yet. He could be, but he's not that guy yet. That's all. That's all. That's me campaigning for 2023 to be fair. 2023 to be fair. Because that just was not there. You know, a lot of it was also revisiting his history. You know, 5-5 record. And it turns out the Denver Nuggets were also 5-5 in that same record. Like I said, my mom was like, oh, they don't talk about us. And that's your favor. Because if they did, the 5-5 record would have been pointed out. The Denver Nuggets 20-26 against about 500 teams. All of these things would have been proven to be true and relevant. How do you criticize the Sixers for not being able to finish out the regular season as strong as they could have, but then look at the Denver Nuggets and be like, well, you're going to help. Shit. So 2023, just be more fair about this than you were this year. That's all. Oh my God. Death by apple juice would have been really amusing. They said apple a day keeps the doctor away, but it almost sent me to a morgue. Oh, sorry about that. I'm not gonna edit it out though. A, I don't know how. B, it's just too much hassle. So, this video is already longer than I wanted it to be because MVP and even all first team center, those things just drew out something in me, right? But we're going to have a proper conclusion. And that proper conclusion is we are going to be reviewing now what Tyrese Maxey was able to do in games 1 and 2. So if you bear with me, I'm going to try to make that 8 minutes or so, and that's going to end the video. So after nearly almost dying the apple juice, I should say, sorry, we're going to be reviewing the previous 2 games, and particularly Tyrese Maxey, just to go over everything that this young man has accomplished. So here he is, pick him over Joel Embiid, and you see him. One of the things I want you to take a notice of is how much under control he is. Even early in the season, he would not have been as under control. Here he's able to flick it to Harden for the free ball. Just playing with great poise in these last 2 games. Here he is able to get the steal in transition. Look how he splits it up. That's so impressive. To split 2 defenders in transition like that. Like, that's amazing. That kind of blur speed is just unparalleled. And Tobias is able to find him for the spot-up feed. That's the other thing. He's so versatile on offense. Spot-up feed, transition feeds. James Harden able to lull the defender to sleep, and that allows Maxey, again, as an elite spot-up shooter, to knock it down. And here's what Doc Rivers was talking about today. This Harden Maxey screen and roll action has just been really lethal because it allows either one to take the guard off the dribble. And then Harden able to make the shot here. And again, his ability to just catch and shoot Toronto in game 1, like, even just coming in, he was a 42% shooter, so I just have no idea to pick him over. Embiid allows Maxey to get a free lane to the rim. Like, damn, what Harden has done for Maxey and what Maxey has done for Harden, literally they become a top 3 backcourt together in like 20 games. And here's that, oh my God, this was the sexiest thing I've ever seen. like, that was just so much hype. Harden gets his own rebound. Maxey rightly recovers out the free, and just, why are you letting this 43% shooter open in the corner? Why? Here, Maxey, the ball handler, and B with the off-ball screen, able to get in for the layup. And then look at this nice little drop pass to Maxey for the N1. When Harden and Maxey are able to be like side by side, shoulder to shoulder in a play, it just creates so much mismatch. Here, the 2-man screen allows Maxey to get to the rim. And Maxey gets the screen from Reed, able to just pick him out the dribble. And Maxey has this really underrated move. I call it a You know how the post player in B can repost and relocate? Maxey does the same thing when he swings it to a perimeter player. It allows him to relocate, set his feet up for a shot or a drive at the basket. It's just really, really just unique. Tyrese Maxey's offensive package. I've never seen anything like it. I've watched the game for 20 years, and it's like, what makes Maxey dominant isn't necessarily that he's the quickest, although he's super quick, obviously. It isn't that he's super strong. It's not like he's, LeBron, 6'8". Maxey, the opposite of 2'5". Maxey has put the maximum effort into every small, finite detail of his game. And this was really a strong point guard game by Maxey. Here's the other thing I want to talk about, too. Maxey has been quietly really feisty defensively. The Raptors are only shooting 30% when guarded by Tyrese Maxey. His defense in this series has been a big part of why Philadelphia 76ers are 2-0 as he makes the save pass to Embiid here. I want you to notice how much of a calm player he is, able to hit the driving the lane with it too. And then here he's able to hit and be for the goaltend. I just like how much pace Maxey is playing with in these last two games. A little kick out pass the end to shoot him. And he would not have made these recognitions 35 games ago, you know? Here he is in a rebound and transition, and he's looking, he's probing, he slows down, and he gets the floater up. Just smart stuff. And here in transition again with a layup. But again, even in half court, here's the Harden screen again, and then Maxey just probes it, really like a veteran. His knowledge has increased so much playing with Harden, and that step through three off of the poor rotation closeout. He gets the screen from Embiid, he puts the defender in jail, and this allows him to kick out to Tobias Harris. See, that whole even concept, put the defender in jail and kick out to the open shooter. Maxey doesn't do that 35 games ago. But literally, just like George Hill, James Harden in his ear, just elevating his b-ball IQ to another level. And at 21 years old, 21-year-olds are not supposed to have the b-ball IQ that Tyrese Maxey has. So in addition to his athleticism, his speed, look here again, quick up and under. Remember how John Wall used to be like 95 miles an hour? I'm actually starting to understand here that relocation pass I talked about, and this allows him to step back, knock it down. But my point that I was getting to is that Maxey's b-ball IQ and where it is right now, and obviously the clutch gene that he has, he's quickly become a franchise-level star. That level of growth is just ridiculous. And he that little bounce pass or air pass to Danny Green as the kind of risks that he wouldn't have taken early in the season that people wanted him to. And here that little stutter step into a floater. Just where Tyrese Maxey is, man. It's just special, guys. It's really fucking special, and we need to appreciate it and enjoy it. But that he's on the most improved player list? Bullshit. I don't care if he was drafted year one to year two. That's not a normal year one to year two thing for even top 5 picks, let alone what Maxey's become.